Okay, it's 7 o'clock, 19 hours. So time to start. So welcome everyone to a new YaSemosEuropeos webinar. This time is intended to help you with the administrator to the test in the field of the competition administrators in the field of data protection. Some of you already asked us about the possibility of organizing a training. Okay, wait a minute. Everybody can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, SS, but maybe it's your configuration. So if the others can hear me, it means that this time it's not me. This time I got my micro open. Sometimes I forget. But okay, I will continue in the meantime that you fix the audio. So I will write it. One moment. Okay, well, as I was saying, welcome to this webinar about data protection and in particular the tests in the field of data protection. A few weeks ago, some of you contacted us asking if we were planning to organize any kind of training or to help you to tackle this test. Unfortunately, we have limited resources. We couldn't afford to create a full training, but we committed to help you. That was the idea. So we organized this webinar so we can share with you some ideas on how to approach the preparation and above all the study of the test that you got in front of you. Okay, in order to do so, let's see how we are going to plan to do it, right? Because the idea is just unlock our access to the assessment. We need to pass this test to get into the next steps. So we will see how. First of all, with an initial overview, we want to see what about this competition? What are the elements that we should bear in mind in order to prepare accordingly? It's always good to know the context we are moving through. And second, what to study in the sense of what are the elements, the considerations based on the notice of competition that we should study. And third, sources and tips. Where can I find information? Where can I get all the inputs I needed to study for the exam? Okay, so let's see this overview, this initial overview. So first of all, let's just begin with the most common mistakes. What is the problem for us as candidates? What are the main things or main mistakes? First of all, dispersion, too much materials, in the sense that we have tendency to try to read everything. We have tendency to gather a lot of books, a lot of papers, a lot of documents, and we try to read everything. Do I need that everything? I don't think so. Do I need to read such long queue of paper like the one on the photo? I don't think so. We really think that it's a clear set of rules, regulation, directives that you need to know well. With that, you will guarantee to pass into the next step of the competition. That's key. Number of candidates. Oh my goodness, there are too many candidates. So I will never do it. They will know quite well the test. They will perform great, and I will perform terrible. Why? Why do you think that? I mean, all of you are the same situation. So don't think that, please. If you prepare yourself, if you prepare yourself correctly and with quality, you will do it. It's too complicated. Well, I don't think so either, because can you read the directives? Can you read the regulation? Can you read certain documents and then go to visit certain web page with valuable information? Yes, then that's it. It's not too complicated. Come on, you are an expert on data protection. So this is your exam, guys, and guys, women, girls, expert, non-experts, whoever. But if you know about data protection, this exam should be affordable. Not a big deal. Procrastination. That's something that is common to data protection and to any other competition and exam. Oh, it's Christmas time, no need, I'm just chilling. So I will wait till January and come back from holidays. Let's wait to the next week. Let's wait one day more, and more and more and more. Oh crap, the exam is tomorrow. I have to study, no time. We need to read, we need to work every day a little bit. No, the idea is not to work everything in 1 day or 2 days. No, the idea is to work little by little, build up on each one of the inputs that we are reading and we are going through, and work on it on a basis of analysis and managing the information. We will see that we are not asking you, we're not advising you to just the typical study of just put your elbows on the table just like this all the time. No, that's not the point. The idea is to interact, to play with information. So we think about it, we retain all the tips and all the tricks and all the hints relevant for the exam. That's the point. So that's about the mistakes. Those are the main dangers we are facing. Let's see what else can we see on this competition. Well, again, from now on till the day of the test, keep focus. Book some time, reserve some time to study. And if one day you are tired, you don't want to study, okay, relax, chill. But knowing that you are chilling for 1 day, don't do it for the whole week. Not your business. It's data protection, so it's about data protection. Don't think that you will be asked about EU law on copyright issues. No, it's about data protection. The content and the topics are clear. So don't get dispersed. Don't start to think about many other things. If you keep focused and you know your business, you do your things with cool mind, cool head, you will get into the assessment. That's it. That's the question we heard. Very simple one. So please trust yourselves, keep focused. What else? What else can we say about this? Well, with numbers, I love numbers. So let's see what can the numbers tell us about this. First of all, in this competition, you are around 2,247 people who fill in the application or who apply for this position, according to EPSO. In our experience, no more than 2,000, more or less, will take the test. In the meantime, a few were disqualified because they didn't fulfill the criteria. Others were didn't show up for the exam. So still, there's always quite a few candidates that you will never hear about them again. So good, you are not so many, only 2,000. So the idea is that to the talent screener, the point here is that you need to pass the test and get a good result to get into the talent. Our calculation is that around 400, 500 candidates will be assessed among the highest scores, will be assessed the talent screener. Okay, because at the end, they only need 228 candidates to get into the assessment. Where is that number coming from? From the 76 spots or vacancies for this competition multiplied by 3. According to the notice of competition, 3 times the number of spots will be invited to the assessment. Usually by experience is double 3 times the number of people who are invited to the assessment are check their talent screener. So we need to be among these 400, 500 first candidates. Okay, that's the first thing that we need to bear in mind. So what does it mean from my perspective as a candidate? You need not to make mistakes. In order to get a good score, a high score, you need to avoid most of the mistakes. I mean, don't get obsessed with doing everything right, but get the idea that the questions that are simple, the questions that are not so complicated are the ones that you cannot fail. Those are the ones that will set the difference. Because if a question is difficult for you, most likely it will be difficult for others. But if a question is simple for you, it will be simple for others. So if you fail that one, the others won't. The others will make it that right. That's the one that we cannot afford to lose. A complicated question, well, we may fail that one, but there will be another complicated question that other candidate will fail and I will make right. They compensate, they tend to compensate. But what they don't compensate is the easy ones that we fail and we are losing opportunities there. Okay, I hope this is clear. Okay, so let's move on now. If not the talent screen, at least the eligibility criteria. Maybe I mix sense the elements. In any case, there will be a filtering in your competition. So apologies, I am not using the right expression or the right concept, because it's true that it's something a bit misleading. Thanks, Mauro. So that's one thing. Oops. So perspective. This is for candidates sought in the assessment, before the assessment. Sorry, talent screener or eligibility criteria. Same process for all. Okay. So that's important. That you are all in the same ship. You are all in the same line. So that's important. And what matters, you need to get a high score at the end of the test. So avoid the easy mistakes. Those are the ones that you need to care more about than the difficult questions. About the test, what do we know? This is exactly extracted from the notice of competition. The field-related MCQ, language 2, 40 questions, 60 minutes. Out of 40, you need a pass mark of 20 over 40. Let's be realistic. With 20, we're going to make it. We're going to get into the assessment. We need more. We need at least, I will say, based on experience with a 40 points, this 30 something. Will I be able to do it in 60 minutes? Well, even in 30 minutes. I mean, time is not an issue. For 40 questions, you will have more than enough time to fill in the test. Don't worry about time. Worry about content. Worry about reading correctly the question, about reading all the details, knowing what they are asking. We don't need to rush. So it's very dangerous when we tend to rush, we read fast, and we don't read correctly the question. So we answer the first thing we think is correct, and it's not. So careful with that part. That's one thing. So another element that is relevant here, that was for whom is organizing EPSO the competition. So it's organizing this to the European Data Protection Supervisor, European Commission, European Parliament, the Council, all the institutions, all the panoply of institutions and entities linked to the European Commission are invited to select candidates from this competition. That's a good thing. It means that you will probably find your spot once you are in the reserve list quite fast. But also give us some hints about the scope of study for the data protection. It means that I need to study the data protection not only from Commission perspective, but from Data Protection Supervisor perspective, or Council or Parliament. If there are any differences, if there is any specificities for each institution, I should be aware of it. From an external perspective, not an internal perspective. I mean, this is an open competition. This is available to everyone that is not inside the institutions. So it means that all information, all the questions, all the content that you will be required to know in the field-related MCQ, it's available on the internet. It's freely available. Okay? So careful with that. Remember that part. What task can I expect to perform? This is an interesting one, because most of the things that I need are here in this paragraph. Here they make reference to the different regulations that they control or state the rules of the data protection. The regulation 1725, the one from 2016, the 679, and the 680. Those are the key ones. Those are the ones that I should know better than my name. Okay, those are the ones that we will see. More in detail about what to study from the notice to your test. So I mentioned before the institutions. I mark them with a green line below, saying that all from that perspective. So check their policy of data protection, check their webpage to see if they have any particularity that is not in the regulation, that is beyond there, just in case. You should be aware, just in case you get a question about regarding the European External Action Service, how is data protection guaranteed face to third member state countries? Just wondering, is it? It's not? Is there any specificity? Let's check it. Go to the web page, to the regulation, to see if that's the case. But now about the task I can perform. They already mentioned the 3 regulations that you are supposed to know, to apply, to interpret. That's one very good hint, but also in red. That's another interesting thing. Another relevant union legislation as well, monitoring policy and legislative developments relating to the protection of personal data. So we need to be careful. We need to pay attention to the fact that we may get questions that are not inside this previous regulation already mentioned, but to other pieces of legislation or to other elements closely related to data protection. Okay? This is important to open our scope, not to, without limits, but with a clear limit that is the data protection link. That's the element that justifies that the document I need to study, I need to read. Following this principle, we have selected some documents, we have selected some items that we think are relevant for you. So let's go through them, let's see them. Of course, the main sources, the regulation 2018-1725. So because this regulates the personal data by the union, institutions, bodies, office, and agencies. These are the rules of the games. These are the institutions that are supposed to hire you once you are in the reserve list. So people, this is obviously the good ones. I mean, this is the regulation I'm supposed to know by heart. I'm saying that because maybe some of you are working already in the institutions with data protection. You are not officers. That's why you're interested in this competition. Nice. Or you are working at national level, but then at national level, sometimes you are more used to the national rules. That is the application of the regulation. Maybe some adaptation, some interpretation at national level, even if a regulation should be adopted as it is. But who knows? So always be certain that you go to the sources. You go to the EURLEX database, to the original document. It's available in all the official languages, in the 24 official languages. So take it, read it, and especially in English or in French, whether it's your exam, the test in the language it is. Take the text in that language, so you get used to the vocabulary, to the principles that they are considering inside of the legal drafting. It's important that we get used to the vocabulary, to the expressions, and to the logic within the text in the language. Same idea for the regulation 2016/679 on the protection of natural person with regard to the possession of personal data and the free movement of such data. The implication of this, the consequences. I'll give you a couple of ideas on something beyond the pure reading of the sources of regulation and the legal documents. But those are just right at the beginning. Let's go now for this more elements. Well, there was the directive. This is more dangerous because directives can be applied in partially and others can be adapted by a member state. So if you're used to the national interpretations, to the national version, sorry, no interpretation. So check the European one, check the directive, because that will be the base. Also, there is a logic reason. This is a competition for European institutions. This is a competition where they should guarantee that it's the same for all. So it means that the directive is the same for all. If they ask for the Swedish adaptation of this directive, okay, they may get some differences, but if you get the Spanish one, it's different from the Swedish, that will be a mess. And it will create an advantage because which country do you select to ask about? No, I ask about the directive. I ask about the reference, the clear reference that I got there. That's it. Okay, so these are elements that we should take into consideration. And also the good point of this regulation and directive is that they clear the same base for all. This is the rules of the game that we are supposed to know, and it's a very fair way of evaluating and assessing everyone. They have a limit amount of capacity to assess people in the assessment. They need to disqualify, I wouldn't say, but to select only a few of you. So unless let's guarantee that they are using the same rules and a fair method. Probably all the selection methods have some degree of unfairness, some degree of inequality, but I think this is the most fair model or possibility they can offer. But this is not the single sources. We said before that they are related, right? There are others beyond the regulation and the directive. Let's see it. Well, beyond the directives, other relevant regulations, Article 13 on the protection of personal data of the Directive 2016/681. So for the passengers data protection and all these things. So, well, it covers quite well data protection. It's been widely known. It deserves a good checking, just in case. The chapter 6 on data protection software of regulation 2016-794, also for the law enforcement cooperation, Europol, it's also involved. So why not to check this chapter? I mean, a general overview. I don't need to read the whole law, the whole regulation, but these pieces that will help me to know better how is the data protection deal, cover this part of link elements with data protection. A moment. Also, chapter 8 of the Council Regulation 2017-1939 on the implementing enhanced cooperation and establishing of the European Public Prosecutor Office. Sorry. Check the webpage also of the European Prosecutor Office, because there's some reference to data protection. It will give you some ideas, some perspective. It could be one question: what is the role of the EPO, of the European Public Prosecutor Office, in data protection? What are the powers, or how they are supposed to interact, or what that's trigger the action of the public prosecutor on relation with data protection? So there are possibilities that we need to check. We need to create our own list of questions and answer them. So we start to think about it. We retain. The more questions we prepare, the more questions we think about and we answer, the better we will prepare for the day of the test. And we will be more able to answer all these elements. But last but not least, we will share this presentation with you. So the links that are embedded in this part of the slides, you will get them, don't worry. So an interesting paper on data and content on data protection is that one, the position paper of the role of data protection officer of the institutions and bodies, because it will be also a paper that develops and explains and analyzes your role. In fact, you will be data protection officers. So, I mean, this is a quite useful document to give you some ideas, some food for thoughts, some inspiration, and some data. More than a question extracted from this document, I don't think so, but some issues, some elements that are very relevant in this position paper will be reflected in the test, will be, I mean, the people who prepare the questions will be the same, more or less, that are being involved in writing documents like this. So they will be more sensibilized with certain contents, with certain ideas, with certain issues of the role of the data protection officers. So that's why it's in a way of getting familiar with, learn, listen, always useful. Also, why not the European Anti-Fraud Office, OLAF, and the implementation rules concerning the data protection officer? In the same line as the previous one, it gives you some ideas for thoughts, references, topics that are considered relevant within the institutions that are supposed or entitled to protect citizens and people or check on crime, this kind of fraud, but it's also in the line, it's in the mood, it's an official document of an institution. So it's always relevant. Of course, in the data protection body, the guidelines and recommendations and best practices, there are plenty of them in the webpage. Choose the general ones, the ones that they got a relevant application. Don't go for the very specific, because there were guidance and recommendations for very specific issues that I don't think will be the key topic. But the more general ones, like the application of certain articles or the practical arrangement to protect data in certain circumstances, are there, and they're worth reading. They're good to check on the applications of the directive. That could be a nice question. I mean, how would you apply data protection in this situation? Maybe it's extracted from these guidelines, or it's inspired from there, and it gave you the perspective, the moment to think about it and answer it. And then the European Data Protection Policy. Yes, the European Commission, of course, has a web page where they refer to data protection. It's a kind of summary, a mix of all the regulations referred, but it will give you a good view on what matters most to the European Commission, most of the people that will be assessing you will be from the commission and for the data protection body. So it gives you a view, an understanding and a recapitulation in a different manner of the elements that are managed by the commission as an institution on data protection. So these are the sites that are quite relevant, that can be quite useful, more than relevant, useful to understand better the element that you have to study, to see better what are the key notions and the key elements that the data protection officer who are writing down the test or are defining the test may consider for your exam. And also it's a way of changing there, not studying the whole time the same thing, the same regulation. It's boring, right? It's all the time the same. No, I mean, here, let's see it from a different perspective. It's the same content, but a different view. So I retain better. I change my air. I have a new ideas about it, because that's the problem when we study the same topic from the same perspective. It gets boring, and at a certain moment we look at the text, but we don't read it. So if we are diversifying our sources of study and our styles, we make it funnier, we make more accessible to us. That's our proposal. It's a topic that could become quite dense. So, but tips for study. We were proposing the regulation. We were already commenting some strategies how to address this, but what are our main tips based on our experience as candidates, based on our experience that we saw that it works well for all the candidates. First of all, tip one, write your own schemes. I mean, the idea is, okay, you print the regulation, you print the directive, you print whatever papers you want to study. Good. You underline it, you write it down. Good. But the best way to study is take the text, take the articles, the regulation, and make schemes, make ideas, because the way you are writing down with your own hand, you can write it with your own hand on a touch screen or on a paper, up to you. You decide the method, but always use your hand, because your hand is connected to your brain, and it creates a synergy of reflection, of storing the information and keeping it in it. So that's why write your own schemes. And when we are saying schemes, we are saying something linear, something short, concentrated in a nutshell, in one word, in 2 words. Don't write long sentences. Don't write long paragraphs. That's not a scheme. A scheme are drawings, are ideas, are connections. Neurological paths, well, data protection content paths. That's the idea. Second, I already mentioned it. I'm insisting again. Yes, I repeat myself a lot, but it's with a good purpose. Ask yourself questions. Everything you read, what could be the question? And that's why I put on the right a caption from Article 2, one of the regulations, when they define the material scope. Okay, I got this article, and I see the first paragraph. This regulation applies to the proceeding of personal data only or partly by automatic means, and to the processing other than by automatic means of personal data which form part of a filing system, blah, blah, blah. Okay, could I turn it around? When does it apply? If it's only partial automated means, should apply? Yes, it's saying it's partial. It's fully automated? Yes, of course, because beyond partial is total. What other characteristics do we see? With the point 2, the same, this regulation does not apply to the possession of personal data, and those are the exceptions in the course of an activity which falls outside of the scope of union law. Okay, good. So imagine that I got an answer, a question that say, in this activity or this element that is not related to the union law is quite present in almost everything, but there are still areas that they are not. Look for examples, look for finding elements that they are not covered and they fall within this exception. I'm sure that if you're expressing data protection, you know, but have you ever thought about it? Have you ever thought of the other way around? When it's not applied this, let's find make a short list of the elements so you will remember. Or by the member states when carrying out activities will fall within the scope of Chapter 2 of the Title 5 of the Treaty of the European Union, usually foreign affairs and security policies, all these elements that are quite sensible. So check it, go to the treaties, check the title number 5, Chapter 2, and see what's about. Check the articles to know, because you don't check, you just read, okay, but maybe the day of the exam, they will ask you directly about refreshing Title 5, not making reference to Title 5. So good way of knowing it, look for it. By a natural person in the course of a purely personal or household activity. Okay, seems pretty obvious, but what could be the kind of activity? If they ask me, because one thing that they could ask in your task, a practical example. If this activity happens, or in the course of this action, or this entity is doing this in this framework, should they apply the data protection regulations? Shouldn't they? What will be the case? Or could they be punished? Or should they implement a new policy? Different casuistic examples. Those are quite interesting. Could be extracted directly from the regulation. Think about them by yourselves. And also because the more you think about these examples, more you create, the better you will remember the day of the exam, the better you will know when to apply, when not to apply, and how they apply. That's the idea of going point by point doing these kind of things. Another element, they say that two brains think better than one. So exchange with other candidates. Don't be afraid of team up with other people. Of course, if it's a big team, it's difficult to control, but 3-4 people, why not to team up, share an effort, exchange questions, exchange point of view, potential resources that you may think are useful. All these elements are always give you, they always give you a strength. They always give you an advantage for the exam, teaming up and helping each other. There are 76 spots. So this webinar, we are around 20 people. Imagine, so you could all of you team up and still you have plenty of spare places or vacancies for other candidates. So don't be afraid of collaborating with other candidates. They are your colleagues, they are your allies, not your enemies. Your enemy is the selection process, not the people. And also practice and find your weak spots. I mean, when I telling you, ask yourself questions, that's key. There's the idea that don't be afraid of think about potential situations and then check with the regulation what will be your initial answer and what will be according to the regulation or to the directive. Where you're right, where you're wrong, try to memorize some hints and trying to challenge yourself to see if you remember. I mean, the idea is that it doesn't matter that you make mistakes before the exam. The more mistakes you do, but you learn from them, you take advantage to detect whether, oh, look, I never remember this list of conditions. While for this part of the regulation, I remember quite well. So I need to practice, I need to reinforce this list of conditions that I don't remember, the things that resisting me. So I need to practice, I need to challenge myself to detect the points and the aspect that they need a reinforcement, that I'm not so sure, certain, or strong. I mean, if we keep practicing with the test or with the information that we are fully aware, we are more than capable, we're strong with that, we are cheating to ourselves. Because the exam is not about showing our strengths, or the exam, they will test our knowledge. It can be quite broad, and we need to avoid that our weakness can take over on us or can appear during the exam. No, we detect them before, we correct them, and we will work to gain strength from them. So the day of the exam, the easy questions, the medium average difficulty, we get all of them right. The difficult ones, again, it will be difficult for everyone, but the easy ones are the ones that we cannot afford to lose, the ones that we need to do right and to get maximum points. Okay, that's the idea. Those are the tips. Basic, logical, hope so, but this is not more difficult than that. After this, it's only personal work. You need to allocate yourself quality time to get things done. There is no miracle. There are no, yes, I wish there would be a nice pill that you swallow and now I know everything. I know about data protection. Like now that they have the 4 of Matrix, you remember the scene where the main character, Keanu Reeves, Neo, has said, now I know confused, because they were uploaded all the information in his brain. Unfortunately, we cannot do that with data protection. We don't know if it's the technology or it's because the data protection itself doesn't allow to do that. but we need to learn. We need to study the old classic fashion way. So guarantee yourself you have time to do that. It's the only way. So, and that's it. So as I said, quality work is the key. There is no other thing, because at the end, we get the key, we open the lock, and we get you inside the institutions. That's what they are looking for. They are expecting you. But let's pass the test, let's pass the assessment to get into it. That's it regarding data protection. So the final conclusion that it's in your hands to get into this competition. Last but not least, and before I open the ground for questions, recapitulation of what we can offer in YaSemosEuropeos for you. So free webinars and materials, like today. For instance, CBT trainings in English and Spanish. In your competition, you will get the CBT at the end. And also, you don't need a minimum result, but the more points you get in the CBT training, the better, because at the end, it adds up to a total of 300 points in your competition. So the more you get, the better, of course. Training for the assessment center, whether it's the interviews, it's the role play, it's a case study, it's a field-related interview, whatever you want, we can prepare coaching, individual or cast interview preparation. Not this case, but for the future, or you want anyone who need it, you can refer to us. So, and now, many thanks to all of you. I open the ground for your questions. Okay, let me check the chat. One question regarding for the question: do you believe that we all have same questions, or there will be a pool from they will select for each candidate? I think there will be a pool. They will have, I don't know how many, maybe 100, maybe 80, and each one of you will get different questions. But of course, if you list all the questions, you will realize that you share some questions with other candidates. Also be careful, because sometimes what they do is they may change a little thing on the question, so it looks the same, but they are different with different answers. Also, the order of the answers could be different, because that's quite easy to put in a random mode in the machine. So you get the same question, but different order. Oh, it was the second, the answer. No, for me it was the fourth. Oh my goodness, it's bad. No, I mean, different order. So preferably it was the second and the fourth was the same. Okay, no, from how much expert do you think one has to be to have more chances? Could not this be a pseudo generalist one? I don't think this is a pseudo generalist, but I think that anyone who is capable of learning well the regulations, the directives, and the different elements we have mentioned in the presentation will do it. I mean, we take as a reference the audit competition, where there was a writing test for auditors, and they were asked to apply the manual from the Court of Auditors on a writing test. Well, they were supposed to know well the manual of the auditing manual, and that was okay. Among our students, there were no auditors. There were several that they were generalists somehow, but they learned, they studied well the manual and how to apply it, and they did it. They get into the competition. So even if you're not an expert in data protection, you are only familiar with, work well with the data, work well with the different elements that you got, and you can do it. Okay, let me see another question. Another question, do you think that the test must be presential or could be taken online? I don't know yet. In principle, based on previous tests, you should be able to take it from home. Personally, when I'm near a prometric center, I prefer to go to a prometric center, because in case there's some technical failure or some problem, I could raise my hand. Sorry, my computer is not working. Solve it. I cannot do anything. It's logistically speaking, it's your problem. And I can put the burden or the responsibility on them, so I can stay calm and say, okay, I wait to have my opportunity. If you do it at home and something fails, it's on you to fix the problem and to check and everything. So that's why I always prefer the prometric, but that's my personal taste. EPSO will inform you when you select the date for the exam. I think it's at the end of January, if I remember correctly, when you are supposed to select the date and the time for your exam, so they will confirm if you are allowed to do it at home. Considering on the COVID circumstances, yes, I think so that will be the case. Let me see another question. It's exhaustive, the list of material we presented. I think that it's quite exhaustive, but still we may have missed something. So I cannot say that it's 100% the single thing that you have to study, but it's true that one thing, what it didn't cover is the whole institutions. We put the link to the commission, but check the other institutions if they have any particularity on data protection. Because it was quite a lot to cover, so we didn't include it. But that's one thing that is obvious, but check it. The regulations are the ones that they are not more than that, and those are the main elements that we think that they apply. But still, there could be minor elements that could come. We don't think they're much, but you never know. If we don't know a question, it's better to guess or leave it. If you don't know a question, it's better to guess. If it's 4 options, it's 25% chances of randomly make it right. Maybe you can discard 1 or 2 options, so it's only a 50% chances or 33% chances. And so far, the test done by EPSO, they never subtract points for the failures. They only add points for the ones that are right. So the strategy is always answer all the questions. Whether you know or you don't know, you answer. And after, always try to select the right one. Okay. What about the case law on data protection? Yes, there is a couple of case law that could be considered. It's true that I didn't put them, maybe I should, so check on it. I think that in the site of the I saw it in one of the sites that I mentioned. If it's not in the paper from the data protection body, it will be from the commission site. They are referred to some of the case law. Check there, and those are the ones that you need to check. Because also there was a lot of case law previous to the new regulation. That's why also the issue. Yes, in the PV there are case law, so they know better than me, and probably better than hope not, but maybe better than you now, not at the end of January, the case law that applies. So just go there. Yes, now that you mentioned the Court of Justice, I think the Court of Justice issue a document. I will check before sending you the presentation. I will check because I think they have a booklet on data protection, on the case law on data protection. So, right. Thanks, Isabel. To the previous regulation, I don't think so, unless it is referred in the current regulation. I mean, it got dismantled, it got overruled by the most recent regulation. In fact, the problem would be this competition would have taken place in 2018, because that was the moment that when the directive and the regulation entered into force. But the 2016 ones. But the moment they are in force, they are. Why do you need the old one? It's that unless it's still applicable in any case, but if it's not, you don't need to know. I see some reference to the relevant case law. Good. Well, yeah, I like that cooperation. That was the idea of today's session as well. There's a handbook published in 2018 about data protection. Yes. Thank you, Vanessa. Published by FRA and Council. So as I told you, each institution has their own book. The thing is that personally, they will tend to be quite similar. Differences will be small ones. You never know. So as those all the institutions are affected, check all the institutions that appear in the notice of competition and their policy on data protection. If they have any guidelines or any document issue on that, because that will be helpful. That could be part of your exam. Okay, so thanks to Vanessa that got the document advice, FRA and the council. People, more questions, more comments? No? Everything under control? Okay, people check the chat. Isabel just share the case law guidance on data protection. If you want to share any other document or any other input, that's the right moment. Okay, people. So for the moment, that's it. Well, I see that another document in the chat. Don't worry, I will put them in the email that we will share with the presentation. So don't worry if you don't have access or you cannot download it now. So everybody will have the opportunity to get them. Nobody's missing anything. Yes, the filter is done after by order of results. Oh, sorry, the question was a eligibility filter. Yes, it's done after the competency test, after this test in concrete. Let's say that they use this test to establish a ranking on how to do the eligibility and the criteria. Okay, people, glad that it's been of help, this webinar. As I told you, we cannot deliver a proper training. We try to help you somehow. That was the intention. We have shared good feedback and good ideas. Hope it will help you and it will cooperate on this. And good luck for the exam. We'll stay in touch. Yes, Happy New Year, Isabel. Happy New Year, everyone. See you next year around. See you then. Bye.